Right now, your brain is lying to you. Not intentionally, but systematically, reliably, in ways that are almost impossible to catch. You trust your instincts, your gut feelings, your immediate judgments. You think you're rational, but the truth is far stranger. Your mind uses shortcuts that feel true but lead you catastrophically astray. Today, we're uncovering the science of why. In 1974, two Israeli psychologists named Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky published a paper that would reshape psychology forever. They proved something radical. Humans don't think like computers. We don't calculate probabilities carefully or weigh evidence objectively. Instead, we rely on mental shortcuts called heuristics. These shortcuts are fast, intuitive, and dangerously wrong. Here's what makes their discovery so devastating. They tested this with statisticians, people trained in mathematics and probability, people who literally understood statistics for a living. And even they fell victim to the same biases as everyone else. Your education doesn't save you. Your intelligence doesn't save you. These mental shortcuts operate at a level deeper than conscious thought. Think about how you estimate things. If I ask you, is the population of Turkey more or less than 50 million, and then ask, what is the population? Your answer will be anchored to 50 million. But if I ask about 500 million first, you'll estimate much higher. Same question, wildly different answers. Your brain isn't calculating. It's guessing based on whatever number is floating nearby. Kahneman and Tversky called these systematic errors cognitive biases. And they're not bugs in your thinking, they're features. Evolution built your brain to make quick decisions with incomplete information. When a predator appeared, you didn't have time to calculate probability. You reacted. That survival mechanism is still running in your modern skull, making terrible decisions about politics, money, and relationships. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How good are you at recognizing your own incompetence? Think about that for a second. Because in 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Justin Kruger discovered something that fundamentally changed how we understand stupidity. They found that incompetence doesn't just prevent you from being good. It prevents you from knowing you're bad. Their experiment was elegant and brutal. They tested people on logic, grammar, and humor. Then they asked those same people to rate their own performance. The results were shocking. The worst performers massively overestimated their abilities. People in the bottom quartile thought they were above average. But the really expert people, they underestimated themselves. Competence creates doubt. Incompetence creates confidence. Why does this happen? Here's the dark truth. To know you're bad at something, you need a certain minimum level of competence in that thing. It's like someone who doesn't understand music trying to judge whether they're a good musician. They lack the knowledge framework to evaluate themselves. They're blind to their own blindness. This is why the Dunning-Kruger effect is so pernicious. You can't escape it by trying harder. Look around the internet. Look at political comment sections, YouTube arguments, Twitter debates. Everyone's supremely confident. Everyone thinks they've got the answer. That's not stupidity speaking. That's the Dunning-Kruger effect in action. The people actually studying these fields for decades, they're the ones saying, we still don't fully understand this. They've seen enough to know how much they don't know. Imagine you believe something. Anything. It could be about politics, religion, health, whether your ex was toxic, whether you're good at your job. Now imagine someone gives you information that contradicts your belief. What do? You probably think, well, that's not reliable. You find reasons to dismiss it. Your brain isn't interested in truth. It's interested in being right. In 1960, psychologist Peter Wason ran a deceptively simple experiment. He showed people a sequence of 3 numbers, 2, 4, 6. He told them there was a rule determining the sequence and asked them to figure it out. They could suggest other sequences and he'd tell them if they fit the rule. The rule was actually just ascending numbers. But here's what people did. They only tested hypotheses that would confirm what they already thought. Someone would think the rule is even numbers increasing by 2 and test 8, 10, 12, which fit. They'd never test 1, 2, 3 or 3, 5, 7 to challenge their hypothesis. Even when Wason told them they were wrong, they'd generate new hypotheses but test them the same way, always looking for confirmation. This is confirmation bias, and it's absolutely everywhere. Consider medical diagnosis. A doctor forms an initial hypothesis about what's wrong with you. Then everything they observe gets filtered through that lens. Symptoms that fit the diagnosis feel significant. Symptoms that don't fit get explained away. Patients die from misdiagnosis not because doctors are stupid, but because confirmation bias is woven into how human perception works. We see what we expect to see. Here's one of the most disturbing findings in all of psychology. Kahneman's research revealed something that should terrify you if you ever appear in court. He showed that judges, supposedly impartial arbiters of justice, are influenced by completely random information. They rolled dice in front of judicial participants. High number rolled, longer sentence. Low number, shorter sentence. The outcome of a dice roll changed human punishment. This is anchoring bias. Whatever number you hear first becomes a reference point, an anchor that drags all your subsequent judgments toward it. In Kahneman studies, estimates shifted by over 50% depending on the anchor. If I ask, is the percentage of African nations in the UN higher or lower than 10%? You'll guess lower than if I first ask about 65%. The anchor distorts your entire judgment. Think about salary negotiations. When employers suggest a number first, they've set the anchor. Everything negotiates around that point. Your counteroffer feels too high if it's drastically different, even if the anchor was artificially low. Prices at stores use this constantly. The original price is the anchor. The sale price feels like a victory compared to the anchor, even if it was never the real price. What's diabolical about anchoring is its invisibility. You can know about it completely and still fall for it. Kahneman himself, the guy who discovered these biases, still finds himself influenced by them. He said that understanding the bias intellectually doesn't protect you emotionally or intuitively. Your conscious mind knows it's irrational. Your unconscious mind anchors anyway. Here's what's actually happening when these biases kick in. Your brain receives millions of data points every second. It cannot possibly process all of them consciously. So it uses heuristics, mental shortcuts, to rapidly filter information and make decisions. These shortcuts evolved in an environment where they mostly worked. A predator-filled savanna doesn't care about statistical significance. But modern life is nothing like that savanna. You're making decisions about complex financial instruments, medical treatments, political systems, and relationships, situations that require careful analysis, not gut instinct. Yet your brain is still running ancient software. It still believes that if something comes to mind easily, it must be common. If you've recently heard about plane crashes, flying feels dangerous, even though you're statistically safer in planes than cars. The availability heuristic is this bias in action. Your brain uses how easily can I think of examples as a proxy for how likely is this. Murders get media coverage, so they feel common. Heart disease kills more people, but it's boring, so it feels rare. This completely distorts risk perception. People buy lottery tickets despite terrible odds because winners get vivid media attention. People smoke despite knowing the dangers because the abstract future feels less real than the immediate relief. And here's where it gets really interesting. These biases interact. Confirmation bias amplifies anchoring. The Dunning-Kruger effect makes you confident in biased decisions. Your brain isn't just making one systematic error. It's making cascading errors that reinforce each other. You're not just deceived once. You're deceived, and then your confidence in the deception prevents you from catching the error. So what now? You understand that your brain is fundamentally unreliable. Does that mean you're doomed to make terrible decisions forever? Not exactly. Knowledge changes things, not completely, but meaningfully. The first step is recognizing when you're in a high-stakes situation where bias matters. Choosing ice cream? Bias probably doesn't cost you much. Choosing a career or a life partner or an investment? That's when you need defensive strategies. Here's a concrete strategy. When making important decisions, deliberately seek disconfirming evidence. Don't ask, why is this choice right? Ask, what would prove this choice wrong? If you're considering buying a house, don't just look at why it's great. Spend serious time researching its flaws. If you're evaluating a job offer, don't just think about the cool projects. Actively research negative reviews from employees. This flies in the face of how your brain naturally works, which is exactly the point. Second strategy, use external references to combat anchoring. Don't negotiate salary based on one anchor. Research median salaries, get multiple offers, look at market data. When shopping, don't compare to the original price. Compare to prices at other stores. When a doctor suggests a diagnosis, get a second opinion from someone who doesn't know the first diagnosis. Create multiple reference points instead of letting one anchor dominate. Third strategy, and this is crucial, involve other people. Our biases are individual and they're contagious. Surround yourself with people who disagree with you respectfully, not to argue, but to genuinely expose you to different frameworks. Someone else's confirmation bias is different from yours, which means they'll catch errors you miss. A good team with diverse perspectives is cognitively superior to smart individuals working alone. And here's the uncomfortable truth: you'll still be biased. Even understanding these patterns, even implementing these strategies, you'll still make irrational decisions. Kahneman describes himself as two systems. System 1 is fast, intuitive, and biased. System 2 is slow, deliberate, and logical. System 2 requires effort. Most of the time, you default to System 1. Accept this. You're not aiming for perfection. You're aiming for slightly better decisions than you'd make by pure instinct. Your brain is magnificent. It's capable of creating art, science, and love. But it's also fundamentally biased. It lies to you constantly, usually without malice, usually without you noticing. The paradox is this: the more aware you become of these biases, the more you realize how deep they run. But that awareness itself is the superpower. You can't eliminate bias, but you can work around it. If you found this fascinating, subscribe for weekly psychology insights that will make you question everything you thought you knew about how your mind works. And drop a comment. What's a decision you've made recently that you now wonder if bias influenced? Let's talk about it. Thanks for watching.